Marvel news.
Beautiful life. 난 너에게
I usually have like bullet points or a script for some of my videos. Not for this one. Just gotta get some things off my chest. Last night around 10 p.m. here in Korea, a news broke out that is probably one of the greatest news that a Marvelite slash true believer can ever hear. I haven't felt this way since Spider-Man came back home to Marvel, where Disney and Sony struck a deal so that Spider-Man can be introduced to the MCU. But this news, what the heck? X-Men, Fantastic Four, Galactus, Deadpool, they're all back home with Marvel at Disney. Oh my gosh. Not only are they a part of Disney, but like the entirety of Fox. We could have movies now with like Predator fighting Zootopia or something. I'm just going insane right now. Yo, Disney owns like straight up everything at this point. Star Wars, Marvel, now Marvel Fox, all of the Pixar, everything you think about your childhood, whether it's yours or mine, something is owned by Disney. This is exciting, yet a little scary at the same time. There could be dark ages ahead where movies, there's more of like a consumer thing instead of like an artistic approach to movies. And I can't believe I'm rooting for Disney right now, but that's not what I'm gonna talk about. I'm also not going to get into like the minutia of the contract or the buyout, like the details about it. I'm here to talk about what Marvel fans and a fan like me wants to talk about, which is X-Men, Fantastic Four, Deadpool meeting the Avengers and the MCU. Finally, things can happen. This can happen. This makes sense now. This can happen. This, too, can now happen. I'm talking about the movies, not comic books, because that already happened like many times. But today I want to talk about like theories and ways that X-Men and Fantastic Four and all these guys from Fox can go into the MCU at this point. Whenever I was not doing anything, or I was in the shower, or when I should be contemplating about my life choices, I was actually contemplating how Fox Marvel can come into Disney Marvel. I've been thinking about this for years. Maybe it's because I have a lot of time on my hands, or maybe it's because I'm a crazy fan. Not that crazy. Or maybe it's from the hundreds of comic books I read. Probably a bit of all. Point number 2 being the strongest. Anywho, let's get into this. MCU has been built for years now. And throughout the creative process, we also saw new characters being introduced, and especially like Spider-Man from Sony coming to Marvel. He was perfectly, in my opinion, introduced to us into this universe. Anywho, let's talk about the couple of ideas I personally thought about for many years. So how would the Fantastic Four and X-Men be introduced? Couple thoughts. Of course, everybody is probably thinking about they were in hiding. I'm talking about X-Men right now, the mutants. I get it, because Charles Xavier and the School for Gifted Youngsters, you know, it's very secretive. However, what doesn't make sense, I'll give Charles Xavier and the X-Men a leeway. Sure, they were in hiding, whatever. But what about like villains like Magneto? What about the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants? They definitely want to be known. They want the mutants to overcome Homo sapiens. They want the spotlight. They want catastrophe. But in this MCU, none of that was talked about. They just didn't even talk about like Magneto or even the history of mutants. Because mutants, they date as far back as humans. So it just doesn't make sense for this universe to not be in the know. You really think S.H.I.E.L.D. wouldn't know? You really think Iron Man wouldn't know? I mean, he kept tabs on Spider-Man this entire time and brought him into Civil War because he probably thought he wasn't lethal, but he was dangerous. So he put him on his side. Other secret intelligence organizations wouldn't know. Come on now, Hydra wouldn't be tampering with mutants. We were already introduced to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and they were just miracles that were tempered by the Mind Stone. I mean, I get it. Maybe mutants are a bit different. Maybe all of them were tempered by like a Mind Stone or something, but I'm pretty sure even I wouldn't like that at all. I want them to be purely mutants. like the comic books. So that doesn't really make sense. Them in hiding, I get it. Maybe it could work, but I don't see it working at all in the MCU right now. In terms of Fantastic Four and like Galactus, I could see that already happening. And Deadpool, don't get me started with Deadpool. He could be shoehorned into whatever. I mean, even in his movie, he talked about Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson sort of, because he's super meta. He even had a helicarrier in the movie. Not really confirmed, but come on, all Marvel fans know that that's a helicarrier. Fantastic Four also can be shoehorned in easy. Like for instance, I was thinking like, remember that one scene, that race scene in Iron Man 2? What if Johnny Storm was one of the racers in Iron Man 2 where his career got destroyed because of whiplash? Ben, the Thing, what if he was like the pilot that was shooting bullets at Hulk in Avengers #1? What if he's already been introduced? What if Susan Storm was just a civilian in New York when the alien thing happened and she was just a bystander at that time? Reed Richards, I'd probably put him in like a SHIELD facility, or like he was working with the Tesseract stuff in Avengers #1 and he tampered with it, and then with that power he kind of understood space a little bit, so he gathered all these misfits and he took him into space, and then they all got powers from like a cosmic thing that the MCU is already known for, such as from Guardians, the Stones, even Doctor Doom. Maybe he built Latveria from the ashes of Sokovia after Ultron. So for me personally, I think Fantastic Four is a lot easier to shoehorn into the MCU. They've already been introduced. Fantastic Four, easy. Also Galactus, you remember that head nowhere, the skull of a Celestial in Guardians #1? What if that head was severed by Galactus? What if he was eating the planets where Ego was planting his plants? Because Galactus in the comics and Ego, they're not really friends. But the big problem right now, as I mentioned, is X-Men. What ways can the mutants be introduced to the MCU? Another, like, not cop-out, but another way that Marvel probably can do is through dimensions. You have the New Mutants movie coming out. What if Doctor Strange and Magic tamper with reality itself? We have this dimension hopping, dimension meeting. Another way that MCU and Fox Marvel properties can meet, I think, is with the global catastrophes that will soon happen in movies. For instance, in Infinity War, where the Infinity Gems or Stones give Thanos godlike powers. So he can mess with reality and tamper with it and just mess with everything, so that like the mutants can come in from Fox. Where the X-Men, they have the Dark Phoenix movie coming along. That makes sense, that could work, and I see that working, no doubt. I'm not creative enough to get all of the details working for that, but personally for me, I wouldn't really want the Fox universe meeting the MCU, because the tones I feel like are a bit different, as well as the continuity errors in Fox Marvel so far have just been off. I mean, I know the MCU also has issues too with like recast and like the Spider-Man 8 years later thing, but I'm blaming that on Doctor Strange. I'm copping out. Maybe they're gonna get a new timeline, maybe they're going to get new actors. Definitely not Ryan Reynolds though. But for me, I was really thinking about this more and more last night. That's why I slept at like 3:30. I usually sleep way earlier than that, but yesterday I just could not sleep as I was just going crazy. Like Captain America meeting Human Torch, that would be hilarious. Cable fighting Thanos, what the heck? What if we also see Captain America meeting Eric Lenscher when he was liberating all the camps? Or Wolverine having like missions against Winter Soldier back in the day? We also can now get a Thunderbolts movie too. Punisher's been already introduced, Ghost Rider's already been introduced, Elektra's already been introduced, Venom, yeah, Venom could work. Thunderbolt Ross is already in there. And now Deadpool? Thunderbolts, I love Thunderbolts. I remember James Gunn also wanted to direct a Thunderbolts movie. I'm also super pumped for an X-Force movie. I'm just throwing that out there. But the theories that I personally would want to see happen is maybe like Scarlet Witch already said like no more mutants way before all this happened. Maybe. I know that her powers are not really fully developed yet, but what if she has like this dark mysterious past and she just already said no more mutants except for like her brother Quicksilver? At this point I'm just rambling. Going off that, what if Charles Xavier already existed? What if the mutants are already existing and right now they're just hiding because of Charles Xavier? What if he used Cerebro and he wiped out the entire world's memory on mutants. And then all of a sudden, everyone's like, hold on, like who are these superpowered people when they're introduced when a catastrophe happens, Infinity War, or Avengers 4, because it's untitled so far. What if the Avengers find out that this world catastrophe wipeout of human memory happened, and then they pinpoint the mutants, specifically Charles Xavier, and then boom! You have an Avengers vs. X-Men movie right there. Boom. Cyclops is gonna fight Captain America. Iron Man's gonna fight Magneto, which did happen in the comics, by the way. The Dark Phoenix is gonna have like a play in this. Black Widow fights Psylocke. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be amazing. Marvel, you're welcome. Just kidding, I'm nobody. But just imagine that. We can see Deadpool fighting alongside with Spider-Man now. Also, the costumes. The costumes are going to be, in my opinion, I feel like they're gonna be better. I mean, look at the history of the MCU costumes. They're pretty freaking good. Compared to the leather stuff that Bryan Singer created for the X-Men, I could definitely see the X-Men donning the colorful suits. Whatever the case is, I am just super pumped about this whole Fox and Disney thing happening. Why do I get emotional about these things? Definitely we're gonna see a lot more X-Men stuff. We're finally going to get more X-Men figures. I know we're getting a lot of X-Men figures right now, but we're gonna get way more. Hot Toys, I already have Deadpool. He now belongs in my collection. I'm looking out for y'all. X-Men, Avengers, fighting together separately. Oh my gosh, I need some water.